Hustleburg. This podcast is all about small business in St. Petersburg, Florida. How the business owners got started, how they built their business, and how they serve our community. I'm Brett Bittner, and I'm the host of Hustleburg, and I started Beyond Your Side Hustle, a marketing firm where we help budding entrepreneurs go beyond their side hustles and ditch their 9-to-5s. As the founder of a small business here in St. Pete myself, I love meeting and talking with fellow small business owners. Lucky for you, I also like to record those conversations for you to listen to. If you find anything of value in this episode, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, because there are probably more nuggets in other episodes, both past and upcoming. It would also be great if you rate and review the episode to let us know what you got out of the conversation. If you have a question about marketing, building your brand, or operating your small business that you'd like to have answered on a Q&A episode, please visit beyondyoursidehustle.com/podcast question to submit it. Welcome back to Hustleburg. Before we get into this episode, I want to share some exciting news with you about next year. That's right, eventually we will be able to escape 2020 and enter a new year filled with potential and new opportunities. Here at Beyond Your Side Hustle, we've already done our planning for next year, and the most exciting part of that planning has to do with the future of this show. In 2021, we're changing things up a bit, based on the feedback and activity we've seen over the first 9 months of this podcast. And by being agile enough to respond, I think we'll be making things better for you, the Hustleburg community. First, we are making the focus for 2021 on our wonderful business owners here in St. Pete by featuring more interviews that showcase all the awesome businesses our community has to offer. Part of that may also bring some special guests that aren't business owners themselves, but play a major role in how business here is done. The goal for 2021 is 52 interviews for you to be introduced to some of the awesome entrepreneurs among us. Next, we are going to be bringing you more video content with those interviews. Early on, I had high hopes about recording the in-person interviews we conducted and sharing that video with you. And while the recordings did occur, it never ended up being shared with you. But with the mass adoption of Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and the like, recording these interviews has been made way easier. So in addition to the audio version of the podcast that you currently enjoy, you will also be able to see us converse on video as well. In fact, the first few video episodes will be made available exclusively on YouTube a few days prior to the audio-only publication, as we introduce the new video option to the Hustleburg and Beyond Your Side Hustle community. If you'd like to go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel to be the first to see our enhanced format, you can do that at beyondyoursidehustle.com/YouTube. Finally, we are moving the Q&A episodes to be shorter episodes. Focus on your singular questions and the answers with the frequency we saw with our bonus episodes in 2020. They'll still be around, but they won't be on the same strict bi-weekly schedule as they have been this year. We're also looking to host interviews with experts in specific areas to really drill down into the topics we cover. These episodes will be somewhat irregular in frequency like the Q&As, but will not supplant our vision of weekly interviews with our local entrepreneurs. So thank you for joining us for episode number 40, a collection of questions and answers that we've compiled to form a Racing to the Top theme in this episode. I want to thank each of you who've submitted questions for all of our Q&A episodes thus far. Please keep them coming. So what do I mean by race to the top? When starting a business, many entrepreneurs make decisions about who they'll serve, and it seems like the fastest way to success would be to provide a good or a service aimed at serving the masses right away. But how can that happen? To reach the masses without a built-in community of supporters and evangelists already cheering you on and providing you with valuable feedback about making their unique experience better, you have to guess, and you have to aim your efforts toward the middle, toward the mediocre, not at the top of the market, not the best, and not the bottom of the market, kind of the cheapest, and you're just going to have to hope. You hope that you'll strike it rich by being seen by many right away. Hope that you can explain what you do to enough people in enough time to not run out of resources. Hope that a large amount of yelling about what you do will bring your idea to the consciousness of the masses. You're sitting there with your fingers crossed that you will become an overnight success. Well, I hate to break it to you, but there is no such thing as an overnight success. Jeff Bezos started Amazon in 1994, and it wasn't until 2013, almost 20 years later, that it was the largest online shopping retailer in the world. Mark Cuban started Micro Solutions in the early 1980s, selling to CompuServe in 1990, developing Broadcast.com, which later sold to Yahoo for $5.7 billion almost a decade later, and he didn't buy the Dallas Mavericks until 2000. We've heard about Tesla, SpaceX, and the Hyperloop for years, yet Elon Musk is still not seen by some as having been successful yet. There is no such thing as an overnight success because we never see the years of trial and error, the late nights spent working, or the ever-present will we make it question. If we do, it's in a retrospective once they've arrived, long after their, quote, overnight success. So now that we know that overnight success is a myth, let's take a look at how we can build something that will grow and sustain over time. First, we need to solve problems. We need to solve the problems that others encounter. We're not going to be able to do that by jumping into a crowded field and trying to win with established players who already found their corner of the market. We shouldn't race to the bottom by trying to find advantages to exploit the status quo. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, basically, we shouldn't be focused to compete on price because someone will always do it for less. How many times have you seen someone enter the market, undercut the competition, only to lose their edge when someone else comes along and is able to cut another corner or two or devalue their work enough that they're able to charge even less than that guy? We also shouldn't compete based on location because neighborhoods, times, and attitudes change. Remember how valuable retail space in malls used to be? Now they can barely keep anchor stores whose whole business revolves around that retail model in their malls. And we shouldn't compete on speed because inevitably someone will be able to do it even faster. Does anyone remember 1 hour photo developing? You don't need it now. You see every photo you've just taken immediately after taking it, and you can print it on demand at home or the office. Price, speed, and location were all competitive advantages whose time has come, and now their time has gone. And those competitive advantages, while they lasted, drove innovation to the point that everyone raced to the bottom by making them commodities. And when something is a commodity, there is no value in a brand because it is all about the commodity. Could anyone point to the difference between Best Buy, FYE, or Tower Records when albums were how we consumed music? Did anyone know who manufactured the vinyl, the tapes, or CDs of those albums that we purchased? Of course not. We were focused on the artist and their contribution to our lives, not the commodity of the medium or the store that brought their music into our lives. Literally anyone could replicate vinyl, tapes, or CDs and sell them, and technological advances made it so that many people did just that. And then we saw how easy it was with digital music, and we saw the complete revolution of the music industry when it came to iTunes and the MP3 and all of those things. We were able to listen to music in a way that we wanted to and not necessarily how it was packaged. So how can you compete with your mind on sustainability for your business? I say it's by adding more value to your customer's experience than the price that they pay. You don't have to be the cheapest option if you provide even more valuable than the lowest price in that market. It's by being more convenient than the most convenient location. Coming to your customer is even more convenient than being on their way home from work. And you don't have to be the fastest at what you do when you know what your customer needs. Being available to offer it to them just before they know they need it is way better than being the fastest in reaction. These are some of the ways you can race to the top, but upcoming will be specific tactical advantages you can take to build and sustain your business for the long term. Find your community. People like us do things like this. That's something I hear almost every episode of Seth Godin's podcast, Akimbo. He reminds us there frequently that this defines our community. He also does this in his writing. So who are the people like us? The people like us are the people around us who see some aspect of the world similarly or who have similar experiences to ours. If you remember the five areas of focus for our content. Now, for those of you who are new to the podcast, make sure to visit beyondyoursidehustle.com/the5 to get the full story on what we mean by the five. These are the aspects of our lives and our businesses where we connect to the people like us. We already have commonalities, so we connect there and expand those connections to fully form relationships. These are the people with whom we start building community. We encounter others through these early community connections that bring them into a similar orbit that find themselves drawn to our shared experiences. And we find that they also encounter many of the same problems that we do. Now, that's not to say that we're all in lockstep, but we do have enough in common that we will likely have more similarities than differences, especially in the areas around the five. When you solve a problem of this community, you're adding value to the lives of the members of the community. All of our businesses solve some sort of problem, right? That means your business can add value to the lives of those in the community you've found or that you've built. Once you have added enough value to their lives through the problems of theirs that you solve, they will look to do the same for you. In the business world, this means they are paying you for the value that you've added. With enough of them doing so, you can pay your expenses and make a living solving their problems. You have just found the smallest viable audience. You're solving their problems, and in return, they're paying you for it. This core group will be the most valuable community in the early life of your business. They will serve as your free focus group at first, and they will turn into a team of word-of-mouth marketers that you couldn't pay for. Business school grads will see the similarity of this group to innovators in the product or innovation adoption lifestyle. They are the first 3% or so of your business. They are the first to have their problems solved by you, and you serve them well. You ask for their opinion about how you can serve them to solve even more problems or to solve their earlier problem even better, and they will be eager to give it. They see additional value for themselves in providing their opinion, hoping that you can evolve to meet those needs, the needs of the first people like us. Their feedback will give you a better perspective on those who need problems like this solved, and when you wow them with your solution, they tell others they know that have similar issues needing to be solved. Other people like us. The first people that we're talking about, they're the first 3% or so of your business, and they will open the doors to the early adopters who are the next 13 to 15% or so, who are also people like us. These people like us are unknown at first, but because you've done such a good job for that first group, the first people like us, and those closest to you will say, hey, you're a person like us. Did you know that we do things like this? To others they know that have similar problems that you solved for them. And then when you wow these early adopters, you've almost reached critical mass, and they are opening the doors for even more people like us. They're helping you to identify other people like us that you didn't know or had no idea even existed. And this continues as you grow to attract the next group of people like us, the early majority. This then expands to the late adopters and the laggards until you've reached all the people like us and introduced them to things like this. Remember, people like us do things like this. Things like what? Well, we all had this problem, but Joe Smith solved it. And I bet he can solve it for you too with this thing. The thing like this. Think of your brand as your reputation. The bottom line when it comes to brand is that it's not your name, it's not a logo, it's not a sign, it's not a location. Your brand is the reputation that others have in mind thinking about you and thinking about your business. This isn't something that you can control in the same way that you can change a name or a logo or even a location. In fact, it's much harder to change because of the layers of change necessary. We don't have finite time limits in business. There is no end where we decide who was successful or who wasn't. The game of business is an infinite one, and it's got one heck of a memory. When you're starting out, your reputation is a blank slate. You have no experience, but you also have no baggage. Through time, your experience grows, and your reputation will as well. Whether it's a reputation for having a fun atmosphere, treating people well, or getting things done in a timely fashion, it follows you and it grows with you. People you've never met before will have an idea of what to expect as your reputation precedes you. Remember when we talked about community earlier? Many of the doors that opened were due to the people like us bringing more people like us into the community, because like attracts like. In business, that means that the mean, the dirty dealers, and the cheaters end up around and dealing with the same. So when you engage in something that isn't on the up and up, your reputation will brand you as someone who does that. That reputation spreads, and you end up with a clientele that expects that from you, and they will act accordingly. If you build a reputation with all the things you look for in the businesses you patron, your brand will reflect that and follow you for the life of your business. What if I told you there's one thing that you can focus on in your business that will set you apart from everyone else in your industry, make you the talk of the town, and make your brand such that you get the best customers joining your community? What if I told you that it will engender a generous spirit among your team as well as your customers? What if I told you that it is free and it always will be? What do you suppose that could be? Well, no matter what business you're in, if you focus on kindness in every interaction, you will have an amazing advantage that can't be surpassed or undercut. While others race to the bottom, focusing on advantages that will inevitably be used by someone else to edge them out, you can take the single most useful way to add value to your community and make your brand known for it. We're not talking about making your business a target to be taken advantage of. Rather, that your first thought for everyone that's a part of your community, your team, your vendors, and your partners, as well as your customers, is to ask yourself, what is the kindest thing I can do for this person in this moment? When you focus on kindness, you add so much value in every interaction that the rest of your brand identity and reputation dovetail around it. And like we talked about, like attracts like. And you will be a magnet for others who are kind, bringing them into your community based on that commonality alone, deeply discounting price, location, convenience, and selection in favor of how you treat others. You're more attractive to do business with, and your relationships will reflect that. Most importantly, your community itself will build around it. The best part about kindness, it's free. Just don't let that price tag fool you.
You did it. You've just listened to Hustleburg. To thank you for listening, we're helping you reach ideal engagement on any social media platform in a 3-week training available at beyondyoursidehustle.com/3 weeks. See how you can change your feed to serve you, start engaging on social the right way, and create a community around you and your business. Speaking of businesses, if you're a small business owner in St. Pete and you'd like to be a guest on an episode of the podcast, let us know at beyondyoursidehustle.com/podcast guest. If you got something of value from this podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast player. This is something small that you can do to help us shine the spotlight on all the great businesses St. Pete has to offer. The music in this episode is Defining Your Dreams by my friend Rhymer Educator. On May 28th, he released a mixtape entitled Quentin Quarantino about loneliness during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I encourage you to check it out on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to great music. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to sharing with you how we do business in the Burg.
With regard to the value of it.